Have you ever asked yourself why men cheat on women who did everything right? If you think about it this way, every man enters a relationship with approximately 10 needs. You could probably meet 7 with your eyes closed. But the remaining 3, the ones he never told you about, those are the ones that quietly destroy your relationships. That's what this video is about. Today, I am breaking down the hidden 10-7-3 framework, the blueprint behind why men cheat on women who are beautiful, loyal, generous, and otherwise out of their league. This is the dating strategy conversation Dumv, my former emotionally optimistic, overgiving self, desperately needed 116 million years ago. But I don't want you wasting that kind of time. Now, I'll be honest. Part of me debated making this video at all. I live in one of the smallest countries in the world, and everybody knows everybody here. And people learn very quickly what should and should not be said out loud, let alone on Beyonce's internet. So let's keep this video between us, yeah? Because women are out here getting destroyed by advice designed to comfort them instead of correct them. Now, before anybody starts foaming at the mouth in my comments, unclench your fingers from the keyboard for a moment. This is not victim blaming. This is pattern recognition with receipts. All right, let's get into today's presentation. She did everything right, and he still chose wrong. This isn't a love story problem. This is a selection problem. And the difference between those two things is the difference between spending 5 years blaming yourself or getting 30 seconds of painful but life-changing clarity. A lot of women are trying to heal from betrayal without ever understanding the strategy behind it. That's just like trying to win at chess while insisting everybody else is playing checkers. I promise you, they are not. If you've ever been cheated on or watched somebody you love go through this, you already know the worst part is not even the betrayal itself. The worst part is the question that haunts you afterwards. What did I do wrong? And here's what I know now. The answer is usually not what you think. We all watched Megan Thee Stallion, Beyonce, Halle Berry, and the list goes on and on. We've watched these women go through cheating scandals publicly. You know as well as I do, these women are exceptional by every metric. Beautiful, successful, talented, and still. Maybe you thought to yourself, well, if it happened to her, what chance do the rest of us have? That is the wrong question. The better question is, why does this pattern keep happening to women who are objectively doing everything right? Because the answer has almost nothing to do with your worthiness and everything to do with selection dynamics most dating coaches are unaware of, if I'm being completely honest. All right, so I know you clicked on this for the framework. So here's the framework. As I mentioned at the start of this video, every man enters a relationship with a set of needs he is trying to meet. We're going to call it 10 for the sake of this video. 10 needs. You're extraordinary, and you're able to meet 7 of his 10. This is where a lot of women get blindsided. They assume because he chose them, even went as far as to get married, that his biological role as hunter just powered down. Well, I've got some unfortunate news, 7. If he has 10 needs and you meet 7, how many are left? I know we're doing internet math together right now, but I need you to stay focused. That's right, 3. The remaining 3 needs, well, they've got to go underground for a bit while you become home base, a quiet place for him to park his car. Okay, you become physical and emotional headquarters. And then quietly, sometimes without even admitting it to himself, once your position is securely in place, he starts seeking out whoever fills the remaining 3. Cue the dramatic music. Because settling down doesn't mean that this man stopped hunting. Now, I'm sure I'll be hearing from some of you in the comments very shortly. Can't wait. This cheating pattern is not random. It is usually strategic selection wrapped in emotional chaos and poor character. Different things entirely. I need you to know not every man cheats for the same reason. Men cheat according to what feels missing at their level. Now, Maslow did his thing with that hierarchy, didn't he? The lower tier, he's going to choose based on practical survival needs: food, clothing, shelter, aka stability, structure, and companionship. You're going to help hold his life together emotionally and financially while he figures out where his Game Boy control disappeared to. Middle tier, those basic needs are now handled. So he starts choosing women based on an emotional experience. His needs are more elevated now, slightly. So things like your energy and presence and how you make him feel about himself matter more to him right now. Then we get to the top tier, the upper tier. This is where the game changes completely. When a man already has the money, status, access, options, he is no longer selecting for survival or emotion, those bottom tiers. He starts selecting for social capital, access, networks, rooms, influence, and the kind of woman who can walk beside him, or worse, walk him into spaces his money alone cannot buy entry to. And this is what people are trying to describe when they say men cheat up. This is not random. It's completely calculated from the start of the relationship. That's why reactive dating keeps women stuck. Strategic dating forces you to understand what game is actually being played before you volunteer to become emotionally concussed by it. Very important distinctions being made here. Here's what makes this so hard to see. From the inside of that relationship, everything feels solid to you. He's present and affectionate. You're open and giving it your all. And you mistake his comfort inside of the relationship for completeness. Those are not the same things. A man can be genuinely satisfied with you and still be aware of the feeling that those other three things are still missing. That's the part nobody explains, because while you're experiencing the relationship emotionally, he's evaluating it functionally. And when a woman appears who can fulfill those remaining three needs, his decision to cheat will feel like it came out of nowhere to you. But I can tell you, it was not sudden to him. He's been calculating internally for months or years, wrestling with the remaining three things on his list. That's why dating strategy has to be in place before you attach emotionally and physically, not after you've already built the fantasy, ignored the data, and started defending him to your friends. Have you ever done that? This is exactly what we break down live inside of the Dating Strategy Lab, because you cannot protect yourself from patterns you were never taught to see. The lab is where you learn to spot them early, before you're emotionally attached to a clown and calling his act potential. Live coaching, real-time feedback, and an accountability partner, so you stop disappearing from your own standards every time a charming man makes prolonged eye contact. And here's what some of you are going to miss. The founder's rate is open right now. What you pay coming in stays locked in forever. Everyone after you, they're going to pay more. Please don't email me 6 months from now shocked that the price increased, like eggs and gas didn't warn you. Now, I promised you a story. A client, a multimillionaire in Monaco. And one small detail about how he invited her here exposed everything about what he was actually offering. This is where the framework I explained earlier stops being theory. I introduced a client of mine to a centimillionaire. Okay, she was beautiful, but she was all about hypergamy. He was polished, successful, the kind of man who says, "Oh, my assistant will handle that." At first, he was completely captivated. And then he invited her to Monaco, economy class. Now, I know, let's be so serious for a second. This man had private jet money. So this is not a financial issue. This right here, this was a test. And before you ask, yes, men test at this level also. They test your standards early and often. Are you tired yet? Because whatever you accept in the beginning quietly becomes the ceiling of what he believes he will ever need to provide. And my client understood that immediately, obviously, because we train for exactly these kinds of scenarios inside of the lab. So she declined politely. No negotiating, no maybe next time nonsense. Just sliced his ego in half with her sweet but definitive standards. And he moved on quickly. Why? Because her standards exposed the ceiling of what he was willing to invest. You will be wise to pause the video here and write that down. So he selected, let's call her a new flavor of woman. We'll call this new flavor barbacoa, because she was a little more savory compared to my very sweet feminine client. Now, barbacoa, she was not younger, prettier, nor more feminine, not by a country mile. But she had something my client did not. She had access to royalty, which meant access to rooms, networks, and social capital his $100 million plus could not buy. And at his level, that mattered more. He didn't need a feminine woman. He needed a hustler with a key. He proposed within a few months with an 8-carat ring. 8. You see, the new woman came in with a different set of 7. He traded feminine receiving, my client, for masculine leading, someone else to lead where he could sit back. So it's never been about beauty, loyalty, femininity, or being good enough. What was it actually about? Why does this happen when you did everything right? Because doing everything right inside of a relationship is not the same as being the right fit for what he's selecting for outside of it. You weren't the wrong woman. You were maybe just the wrong currency. And I say that to free you, not to wound you. As long as you believe the problem was not being beautiful enough, healed enough, or emotionally available enough to qualify for, let's face it, sainthood, you will keep overgiving in situations that were never lacking effort. The women who attract and keep high value men understand what tier they're operating in and what they specifically bring to that tier. That is the work. That is the foundation of what I teach. Real dating strategy is not about manipulation. Although, if I'm being honest, we absolutely do sharpen those knives over there. Can't have you in these streets acting like a dum-dum. Yeah, the sucker. It's about understanding the game that's already being played around you, so you stop entering emotional negotiations blindfolded and hopeful. Now you understand why it happened. Here's what most women do immediately after learning this framework, and it guarantees the pattern repeats with the next man. It's the third thing on the list. Here are the 3 things before your heart ever gets involved. Number 1, identify his tier before you invest emotionally. What does he already have? What is he still trying to build? And what gap is a relationship going to solve for him right now? Because a man seeking stability selects very differently than a man seeking access, status, or expansion. Know which man you're standing in front of before you start auditioning for a role nobody fully explained to you. Number 2, audit your currency, not just your appearance, not your loyalty, your actual value at his level. What do you bring that creates elevation, opportunity, access, peace, leverage, or expansion in his world? Now, I need you to know this before he decides it for you, because trust me, he already is. Number 3, watch how he assesses your value before you even asked him for anything. Economy class to Monaco is not a budget issue. It's a pricing strategy for somebody he wanted to play with and then set back down. What a man offers in the first 90 days before intimacy is the clearest picture of how he values your presence as a whole. So do not romanticize this part. Read this accurately. And here's the mistake that costs women the next relationship. They learn this framework and then they immediately use it to autopsy the past instead of protecting their future. That is an emotional application of a strategic tool, also known as a no-no. And it keeps the cycle running. Now, do I need to remind you again that dating strategy starts before attachment, not after? So if you're already in your feminine energy and still attracting men who cheat, disappear, breadcrumb, or suddenly need space to focus on themselves after 6 months of you playing the lead bang maid, this is why. Because understanding a pattern intellectually is not the same thing as recognizing it live in the moment with a charming man sitting across from you saying all the right things. That gap, that's what you need to work on. The goal is not paranoia. The goal is precision. Because some women are out here entering relationships with no clue of the emotional disaster that lies ahead. Ma'am, there's a version of you that knows exactly what she's selecting for before her emotions start furnishing the apartment mentally. We just need to unearth her. That version learned the difference between he likes me, he values me, and he has access to me. Those are 3 different tax brackets. And honestly, that's why you clicked on this video. Now you understand the 10-7-3 framework. Up next, the 3 specific moves high value women make before emotional attachment, so you never become the wrong currency again.